Okay, so for this video, I'm going to be doing a pair of bummies with a skirt. So I'm going to be using double brush poly, stars and stripes, and then I have my bummy pattern right here, my front and back, my waistband, and then my leg band. And then I also have my skirt pattern right here. I will link it down below where I got the skirt from. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the main piece of my bummies. So I'm going to take my fabric and figure out which way I need to lay this here. So you're going to open up your fabric like this, and then you're going to determine which direction has the most stretch. Does it have the most stretch this way or this way? So just go ahead and pick up a piece of your fabric and stretch it like this so you can see the amount of stretch, and then you're going to stretch it this way. So obviously this way has much more stretch than this way does. So this is what I want to wrap around my body. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this so that my stretch is going this way. I'm going to fold up here, and you can see we have some wrinkles in our fabric. So I'm just going to stretch this out to fix that so that it lays nice and flat. As you can see right here too, there's usually gonna be like little holes in your fabric and sometimes discoloration. You wanna make sure that when you lay your pattern piece on, that none of this is gonna be included in this piece. So my pattern pieces, and then we're gonna lay these on here to make sure that we have enough fabric folded up. So this is actually a little bit too much, so I'm gonna bring it down a little bit so that I'm not wasting fabric. Now our waistband does need to be cut on the fold, so I'm just gonna lay this down here, and then I'm gonna cut out my waistband. And now it's gonna be time to do the rest of my bummies pieces, and I don't need this much fabric. So I'm just gonna refold because I don't wanna waste anything. So for our leg bands, we're gonna go ahead and lay both of those down on the fold, and then we're gonna cut. I am laying both of these pieces on the fold, and we're gonna cut. So there we have our front, and there is our back. We have two leg bands, waistbands. I folded these together, and then here is my front and my back for my bummies. So there's all of those. Okay, so here's my stars fabric, and again, you want to see which direction has the most stretch. Now for my skirt, I want to cut this out as in the entire skirt piece. So I don't have a directional print, meaning that I don't need to cut it any certain way for my print to be going down my skirt. So I'm going to cut this on a double fold. Once in this direction, and we need to make sure that our skirt is going to fit on it. So we're going to go ahead and get this laid out. Now I'm going to take this corner and I'm going to fold over this way. Okay, so with your skirt, you're going to cut this on the double fold on this edge and on this edge for your full circle. A little bit of extra here, and I don't like to waste fabric, so okay. So with your skirt pattern laying on top, you want there to be a fold here and a fold here. So we're gonna lay that on top on both of our folds, and then you're only gonna cut on this outer circle and on the inner circle. You're not gonna cut on these sides because you want that to be folded. So I'm gonna go ahead and that cut out. So now when you open this up all the way, you have a complete circle, just like that. Okay, so like for example on this one, most of these ponies aren't facing this way. There's only one that's upside down. So pretend that's not upside down, okay? So what you would do is you would take your fabric and fold it. So you would fold your fabric one time like that. Then you would take your pattern piece and lay it so that this is going down their body because it's a little skirt. So you would lay it on your fabric so that your print is going the right way. So my ponies are going to be going down the skirt. So then you would cut here around your outer circle, and then you would cut right here, and then you would cut that twice, and then you would just sew these circle pieces right here on this side seam so that you would have the full circle like we did with the star. Once you have all of your pattern pieces cut out, now it's time to sew. So I'm going to take my front and back bummies pieces and I'm going to lay these right sides together. You're going to line up that top corner of the bummy to the bottom corner of the bummy down here. And you're going to do that for both sides because we're going to sew these sides together first. Now when you go to lay your fabric underneath your presser foot on your serger, you want to make sure that both of these fabrics are lined up and laying directly on top of each other. Then you're going to lay your starting point underneath your presser foot, put your presser foot back down, and then you're going to go ahead and serge or sew this side all the way down to your bottom point. After you do one side, go ahead and repeat this with your other side. After you have both sides done, now we're going to sew the crotch closed. So again, make sure that both of those pieces of fabric are lined up. Start at one end, lay it under your presser foot, and then sew that closed. After you have your bummies all sewn, it should look something like this. And now we're going to add our leg bands on. So I'm going to take my leg band pieces, fold those right sides together long ways, and then line it up at the very top. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fold that in half again, horizontally or the opposite direction as you just folded it the first time. So it should look something like this, and then you're going to sew this short end closed here. So here it is again, we have it folded in half. We're going to fold in half again and try to get this lined up as perfect as you can. I stick the folded edge first under my presser foot and then I sew. Go ahead and repeat this for your second leg band and make sure that you line these up as perfect as you possibly can, because once you flip this right side out, if one side ends up being shorter than the other, it's going to look a little wonky on your seam that you just sewed closed here. So if you do make that mistake, it's okay. Just get your seam ripper, rip your seams out, and try it again. Have have your leg bands sewn, now what we're going to do is clip that little tail off, and now we're going to flip them right side out. So you're just going to grab your leg band, and then you're going to take that outer fabric and start opening it up, and then your leg band will flip right side out. So now that it's right side out, we're going to go ahead and line up those fabrics together, and then we're going to put pins where we need to add this to our bummies. So go ahead all the way around your leg band, line up those fabrics, fold it on your side seam like I did here, and then you're going to put a pin directly opposite from that seam. So now you have your front and your back notated on your leg bands. Then you're going to repeat this for your other leg band, flipping it right side out, lining up our fabrics here, and then you're going to fold it on your seam, and then you're going to put a pin directly across from that seam. I went ahead and did my waistband. Sorry, I forgot to record that part, but you do the waistband the same exact way as the leg bands. Except for our waistband, we need 4 pins. So we have our pin in the front that was across from our seam, and then we're gonna line that pin up with our back seam, and then you're gonna put 2 pins on the opposite sides. So that is quartering your waistband. Now we're also going to do that with our bummies. So you're going to just open up your bummies, and you're going to line up your side seams so that those are touching each other. It should look something like this. And then you're going to put pins where my fingers are on both opposite ends of the bummies. And this is so you can attach your waistband on evenly. So go ahead and add your pins in both of those spots. So first I'm going to add on my leg bands. So you are going to line up that seam on your leg band with the crotch seam of your bummies. Then you're going to line up that other pin with the other seam on your bummies. As you sew on your leg bands, you only want to stretch your leg band to the next point of where you have pinned. Go ahead and repeat this for the other leg. Now when it's time to add your skirt, just like we pinned our waistband, we are also going to quarter our skirt. So I'm just going to open this up to where it was folded on a half circle, and I am going to add pins on both of these sides here. Once you have your first 2 pins in the correct spot on your skirt, you're going to go ahead and open your skirt up, and then you are going to line up these 2 pins that you just put in right on top of each other. Have them laying right on top of each other, and now I'm going to put pins on these other 2 sides. And once you have those 2 pins in, you have now quartered your skirt, and now we can add this to our bummies along with our waistband. So now with our skirt, what we're going to do is lay down your bummies, and then you're going to open up your skirt into the full circle, and now we're going to lay this on top of our bummies, and then lining up our 2 front pins, you're going to pick up the bummies so that the skirt is all the way around them. Go ahead and lay that back down on your table, and now you can go around the whole bummies and line up all of your pins and pin those together where each of these meet. So all together you should be pinning in 4 places: on the front middle of your bummies, on both of your side seams, and then your middle back bummies. And then you can take out the other pin because you only really need 1. now that you have that done, what you're gonna do is take your waistband and you're gonna now add this on top of your skirt. So wherever your seam is on your waistband, you wanna put that on the back of your bummies, and then across from that seam is obviously gonna be the front middle of your waistband. So that is where you are going to pin onto your bummies and skirt. So just like you did with your skirt, you're gonna go all the way around your bummies, matching up your pins and pinning all 4 of these onto the actual bummies and skirt. So now keep in mind, when we are sewing this all together, we have several layers of fabric that we're going to need to line up and to sew together. So if you're a beginner, or if this is easier for you when you're first starting, I would go ahead and line up all these fabrics and add clips so that it's easier for you when you sew, that you're not skipping over anything and you don't have any holes, because this can be really tricky when you're first starting out. So now it's going to be time to sew everything together. So I'm just going to slide this over on my serger, and again, make sure that all of these layers of fabric are lining up together and that everything is laying nice and flat in between your pins. And then once you have everything situated, then you can go ahead and lift up your presser foot and slide all of this underneath. Anytime you are sewing on leg bands, waistbands, or neck bands, what you're going to do is you are going to only stretch the band that you are adding. You don't want to stretch the bodice or the bummies in this example. And you're only going to stretch it so that it's laying flat to the next pin. The pins are kind of acting like your guides, just to make sure that you're sewing it on evenly. So if you're not stretching and you're just sewing right along, it's probably not going to make it to your next pin. So just keep that in mind. I kind of stick my hand or my fingers under my band, and I'll just hold a little bit of tension to the next pin that I'm moving towards. And as I am sewing on my waistband and skirt, I am just double checking that all of my fabrics are lined up before I get to my needles on my serger. As you approach where you first started in your last pin, you are just going to go over those same threads that you started about an inch or two, and that is what kind of finishes off that other seam. And then you're going to clip that tail, and then I just pull these threads out tight, clip it again, and then I usually take a lighter and just burn the threads down. You have your waistband sewn on, you can go ahead and just flip it straight up, and then everything should be nice and finished. When you're all finished, this is what it should look like. You should have a beautifully sewn pair of skirted bummies. And just go ahead and make sure that you don't have any holes where your waistband meets your skirt, because like I said, this can be a little tricky when you're first starting out. If you have any questions, just let me know down in the comments.